Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds podcast.
Each episode, we invite extraordinary guests who are masters of their craft. They're innovators, entrepreneurs, and of course, motorcycle enthusiasts who have made their mark in the world.
They share their stories, insights, and hard-earned wisdom, giving you a front row seat to the strategies and experiences that shape their successes.
So sit back, grab a drink, and get ready for an exhilarating ride as we dive deep into the minds of these exceptional individuals.
Along the way, we'll uncover powerful strategies, gain fresh perspectives, and explore the limitless possibilities of what it takes to be an American mastermind. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds podcast. I am your host this evening, Topher Sheeler. I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Rob Adams.
What up, what up?
We got Alec Langdon up on the soundboard, as per usual. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest for you this evening. The one, the only, Mr. Lance Bush.
Hey,
The unsinkable, the unsinkable Lance Bush.
For real, right?
That's the truth. Man, Lance, I'm excited to have you on the show. I'm excited to have you here. Topher, these guys just met Lance, but I've known Lance for, 15 years?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
15
I didn't know
years.
it was that long.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
We go back.
We go way back.
Way back.
I first stumbled onto Lance. He was working in a warehouse. He was kind of the head of the warehouse, sales, all these different areas, and I was selling freight.
Yeah.
And I was walking door to door, B2B sales, business to business sales, freight. Tough gig, man.
Yeah, you did it once for a minute.
Yeah, and I walked in, I knocked on the door, and it was in the afternoon. I remember this very well. I knocked on the door, and you're like, "Come on in, sit down, let's talk about it." And I did my sales pitch, and he was like, "Cool, I'll use you." Like, I didn't like having to go into the numbers. And then he's like, "So what's going on?" Like, we just had like this talk. We just like talked for like hours. It seemed like 2 hours we were just visiting. And I walked out of there thinking, man, this dude's cool. Then almost like twice a week, I would like go out of my way to drop by so I could hang out with Lance at the warehouse. And I would have nothing of value to bring other than the fact that I just wanted to see the dude.
And the good vibes, bro. You brought a lot of good vibes.
Yeah, we'd have a good...
You made that job even better.
It was like... We had a lot of fun.
You did. I had a good time back then.
And then that business kind of exploded.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It literally blew up, and then
Actually?
No.
But someone kicked the door in, and there was
I know what Homeland Security looks like.
there was some craziness going down. And thank goodness Lance had distanced himself from the business, and so he was cleared from all charges.
Good, yeah. Teflon Dawn almost at this point, bro. It's still clean.
And then we bumped into each other again years later. It was a couple years later where I was, what were we doing?
I jumped back into real estate 12 years.
Yeah, just kind of run, you go to enough real estate meetings and conventions and different things, you bump into people, and I saw him, and I'm like, you're out of context. Like, I didn't know who he was. Like, this is not the same guy. Yeah. And it's just been an adventure. But we'll talk a little bit more about that. Really what I want to talk about, Lance, is your enduring ability, your sticking around, how you've made this happen. And fans, just so you know, Lance has been through some shit. And I use that word, ladies and gentlemen, hide your children. There's going to be some profanity on this episode.
This will be. This is real.
This is
real.
Some real
talk.
Some real talking. And when I say shit, he's a survivor of cancer. He's a survivor of automobile accidents. Like, there's been a lot of things that have happened in your life that have been deal breakers. Literally, like, this is the end, this is it, and here we still are, here we sit. And that's the reason that I wanted to have you on the show, is because of your ability to continue to move forward. So let's go back. You've gotten through this business. You're kind of on your own, and you're diagnosed with. Can we start there? Or do you want to start with growing up? You want to go back further and talk about being a kid?
We can start there, being a kid.
Where were you raised?
Where was I raised? Raised in Holiday.
Oh,
Holiday, Utah.
One of those kids.
Yeah. I think I was one of the first white kids to sag his pants. That's how far back.
East side.
East side.
And when he says sag his pants, that's not code for anything. That just means he wore baggy pants.
Wore baggy pants.
Yeah. We got to be clear. We got a lot of new generations listening.
I bet. Good. We're gonna touch their minds a little bit
They've come back, I think.
So you were like the OG of Holiday.
Of Holiday.
Yeah. Rolling, listening to the Vanilla Ice.
Stereo. No, Vanilla Ice. I hate it. That guy is a dick. Sorry, and I want that to be public.
Yeah, Mr. Robbie Van Winkle, Mr. Van Winkle.
We go big.
You heard it here first.
Beef.
Oh man, So Lance is listening to some rap music. Let's go to that. Let's talk about that for a second.
So
Your dad was in radio.
My dad owned radio stations. He owned 99.5, 94.9, and K-Talk. And as a young man, I got to see Senator Jim Tabakis. I got to see all these guys come up. And I was into music at a very young age. Went to the AMAs when I was really young, and met the guys from RCA Records, and they were bootlegging me in rap CDs because they wanted my dad to change his frequency as bad as I did. The love, jazz, Kenny G stuff. It was time to.
Thank you for listening. Thank
you for listening. To
that
low,
slow voice.
Yeah, right. Here you go. Yeah. So I learned back then from a guy named Mick from Mick and Allen.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know those guys. Yeah. If you want a good radio voice, drink a lot of whiskey and smoke a lot of cigarettes. I did not take his advice, but it still came out okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got him to change radio stations, jumped in. Nobody really knew about the industry, so I met Snoop Dogg.
Really?
The first time I ever smoked anything was with Snoop Dogg.
No
What?
way.
100%.
What?
Over
All right,
at the
tell the
remember
story.
the fairgrounds?
Okay.
Fairgrounds. We used to have concerts back there. I walk in the back room, and there's Snoop Dogg and like 10 other guys.
The crew.
The whole crew was there. Warren G. They were all there, and I walked in the back room, and it just got passed to me, and I couldn't say no. I was 16. You know what I mean? And I met them, but I was able to see a lot of cultures at my young age. So I was able to. I played football. I ran with the Pollies. I know a lot of people. It allowed me to see people in a different way at a young age, which is part of the endurance part. You hear people's struggles, you go through them. And you get to those dark places. Like all the stuff I've been through, I've been to the dark places. I lost a buddy to suicide 3-4 months ago.
Oh, no.
One of my best friends. And I watched his cycle. And I watched him just go down. And we tried to help doctors and all this. And I got a text one day. Hey, he's gone. And you were the last person he texted. And I had to sit with that as I was going through cancer and the breakup and stuff, and I got to see for the first time at that depth what that was like. And did I have times where I thought this is not worth it? Absolutely. I think it's normal. But that's where you have to go into yourself and say, look at how they make corn. They put a layer of manure on it, right? So when that shit happens, that's the time where you phoenix out of it. You grow from it. You understand things more. I'm more enlightened, an energy worker. I can see and feel energy now after the chemo. So you put yourself in a place where that's not an option. It's there, I went down to looking at the guns at one point. And there's just something in there that I know every single time anything's happened to me, I've grown from it. I've become a better man. The whole cancer thing that we're going to talk about today, that shook me in a way that it changed me. My vibe's different than it was. I used to be a lot more hyper. It knocked a lot of the ADHD right out of me, bro. Like for real. But it's when you get to that point where it's dark and the phone's quiet and you look around and you got to go, I'm there for everybody. Where's everybody? I got cancer during COVID. So once it hit the news that it was bad for people with cancer, it was a ghost town. Like I rang the bell by myself. But that's where I learned about that self-endurance. That, you know what? You got 4 daughters, you got some grandbabies, you got this, you've got this. Once you shift from looking at what you don't have to what you do have, it's huge. And I went from 3-4 houses a month to getting diagnosed to having to go those couple years to get through that. And then the economy kind of does, the interest rates go up, so you're adjusting all the time. But I honestly believe that the more stuff that comes at you and the more stuff you survive, the bigger you get on the inside. Your heart, the more you lion up. The lion is my animal. And the lion, sometimes it looks battered, but it's still strong and it's still there. Even when I was on chemo, I had a chemo ball for 3 days, I was still showing houses on it. And it's just something that I don't know if I was born with it or something, but it's something that you fight. And I have my dark days. I'm a Cancer. It's my sign. So I go into my shell when things go south. I'll talk to Rob. I'll call Rob up straight up and be like, stuff's fucked up, bro. This is not okay. Why is my heart hurt like this? Like all of the pains
We've
I've
had
been
some of
through.
those talks.
Yeah.
We really have. When you're when you were diagnosed with cancer, let's first, what kind of cancer was it?
Stage 3 colon cancer.
Stage 3 colon cancer. So
And a similar cancer to the guy who played the Panther that passed.
Yeah.
Yeah, very similar.
and so how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at 44.
44.
Wow.
44.
And so 44 years old, boom, here comes mortality.
Boom.
Suddenly you're sitting on the doorstep.
Oh, yeah.
And you had what was the prognosis at the time? Did you feel like
Well, I had
you
to
were
go,
hopeful?
Well, I had to go 2 months. I waited for my insurance. So I didn't have insurance at the time. And I dropped about $40,000 of my savings. I had a house under contract I was ready to move into. Squashed that, sold everything because I didn't want to beat cancer. I knew I was going to beat it. That never crossed my mind that I was going to lose.
You knew right away.
Right away.
So he told you, hey, listen,
You
this
have
is where you're at.
cancer.
And
Yeah.
you're like, okay.
And then I'm like, okay. But then I waited 2 months to go to the doctor to tell me what stage it was and all that. So I had 2 months, like November to January, where I was thinking, what is it? Is it growing today? What's going on? So the mind,
It's
the way
almost
it
got to be
messed.
worse.
And so that was 2000?
That was that was just 4 years ago. So it was 2020, 19.
Yeah, 2020, I mean.
Yeah, 19, November 19 is when I was diagnosed.
Wow. I didn't know it was that recent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then you buckle down and you get your insurance and you get on the chemo ball.
I get on, I jump in, they go in, they cut out 2 feet of my colon.
Wow.
I got a cool little C-section scar. That, yeah, when I go to pool parties, if I see a girl's, I go, I have one of those too.
Hey, that's one way to break the ice.
I did it at one of Rob's parties, actually.
That's right.
It's funny.
I actually
And,
was there. I
yeah,
remember that line.
You remember that. So
That does look like that, yes.
it does. I have
yeah.
one of those too.
He has
So
kids, I don't know.
yeah, yes. I know, right? Yeah, so I went through that, and I went through 4 or 5 months of chemo. And
Let's talk about chemo. What's that like? Like you go in, you sit down, they
they sit you down. You have this beautiful view up, and Huntsman took good care of me. They loved me. They got me through it. They helped me survive. You go in, and you sit in a room, and I didn't look as sick as everybody else, and I wasn't going to be sick. I mean, I did everything in my power not to look sick. I did videos and stuff like that. But you know, the chemo is something else. The chemo poisons every part of your body. And it was during 2020. I didn't know until about 8 months ago about aftercare. I would go to aftercare and realize that I have neuropathy and starting fibromyalgia. It gets, like right now, it feels like fireworks are coming out. But it poisons your mind. Cognitively, you've got 7 to 10 years before it's out of your body. So you've got this period of time where you come forward, and I've been going forward. And then I was on a medication that I hated. The medication was awful, and I just got off of that a little while ago. It's for the neuropathy and that. So chemo was the worst part of it. Chemo was the worst part because it poisoned you. It changed my taste buds, have changed. My eyesight changed. My hearing, as I've got in the last few years, my hearing's gotten better. So your body, just like when you get cut, your body regenerates itself, right? So as the poison goes out, we get stronger and stronger. That's why I'm like, there's a benefit. It's a hell of a thing for body fat.
Well,
Chemo helps with body fat and everything in your brain. It rewires everything. You start seeing things because you're in a different space emotionally because you hear the cancer word. And when you hear the cancer word, that's its own concussion. Out of everything I've been through, that was its own. You look out and you're going, oh my gosh, you think about your kids, you think about
You're
what's
mortal.
going to be next. Yeah. And I'm like, what?
seems like when you're about 40 anyway, you start to become mortal. You start to
Feel things.
you start to feel your knees and you start to feel you wake up and then you didn't sleep as good and all the things but on top of that, we're going to throw in the threat, the nasty word, the C word, cancer on top of that.
Yeah.
And I've lost both my parents to cancer. I hate cancer. It's a thing, but I can't imagine being thrown on that. I was a police officer for 8 years, and there was a video that really influenced me called "Surviving the Edged Weapon," and it talked about how many officers survived being shot or stabbed. And the percentage went way up, and they were talking about similar injuries, similar cancers, if I could say. And the reason that this officer survived versus that officer is because he decided, just like you did, I'm going to live. I got stuff to live for. And other officers were like, oh shit, I just got stabbed, and they would die. They decided that they were done. And it's interesting that it's so powerful, and I've heard it again and again. It's interesting to hear you say that, because I really do believe that our minds are powerful. And you said not for a moment did you doubt that you were going to beat it.
No, I couldn't think about it. I didn't research it.
Didn't even want to know.
I had my daughters, my mom, the girl I was dating at the time. They all did research on it and did that for me. To me, I've got the symbol for the law of attraction tattooed on my back. So for me, I knew 20 years ago about the law of attraction, and I knew I had to get my mind in the right place. I didn't watch negative things. I didn't take in negative things. I shut down. I took negative people. You saw me, Rob.
Yeah.
Take negative people and just push them out.
Yeah, you cleaned house.
I cleaned house.
Big time.
Big time. And
it was interesting to watch you as you were going through that process, to watch you self-discover, because I would see you like align and then unalign and align and unalign. Like you kind of like made a lot of friends, but then I would see you like not be friends with them anymore.
I just wanted, and it was not be friends. It was just
they weren't your
the
frequency.
energy. The energy's last. I tell my daughters, everybody's got an hourglass, right? And then there's the sand of time. When the sand's out, I'm kind of like that. And I have a lot of big personality friends. So, and I know people can only be around me sometimes for a certain amount of time. But it was just, for me, and especially in the real estate world, like a lot of people don't understand this. We're going to tell them right now. I went to a lot of different brokerages, and I learned a lot of different things. And I did that on purpose. Just like when I sold credit reports to mortgage companies, I wanted to see what's going on with different places. I didn't stay in the same boutique-y ones. I didn't go just in the big ones, but I went around to a lot of them because I wanted to see what everybody's doing. It's like when we deal with our real estate stuff. When a file comes to me, I look at the whole thing. I can look into the loan, into the everything, and just figure out where it needs to be. So I went through this process of, I got into real estate right after I got divorced. 2 years after that, my dad died. Then a year after that, I got cancer. So I had this kind of perpetual ball of shit that was happening to me as I was going through and going from brokerage to brokerage and learning this and that. And I always bring my own business, so it was just learning and understanding. And I met some really good people. Everybody's still my friends. You know what I mean? And I was able to keep that because I never did anything wrong. I was just on my path. And my path has been different since I had babies at 19. You know what I mean? My path actually was different about 15. Man, that's where shit went off the rails. The music industry came in. But I don't know, man. It's a ride that never stops.
So let's get back. I want to get back to, you're at the Huntsman Center, the Great View. You've got your chemo, and I'm sorry to keep beating it up, but there's a narrative here that has a direction I want to take you. Is that okay?
You need to lead me because I'll just be.
Yeah.
Oh, lead me. But
so you're getting that treatment. You don't look as sick as everyone else, but now you're getting the treatment, and bam, here comes the sickness. Here comes the shift in your mindset, and all of the things happen. How long were you like really? Facing like the I guess the results of that chemo, like directly? I felt it probably 2 days after my first chemo. I started getting sick, and with chemo you get sicker as you go on. So, and I wish a lot of people go in and they sit in that chair, and when I sat in that chair I looked at everybody else and I'm like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Because you see people literally dying. That's what it does. So it just shifts everything when you sit in that chair and they put that in you and you're watching yourself be poisoned. And I got this chemo ball. It's like a big ball, and you just watch it get smaller and smaller, and you just get sicker and sicker and sicker. So it's hell. It is. How many times did you have to do that?
I had 8 treatments. And that's the thing, is the memory. The memory is the biggest thing. takes a lot of that. I could tell you the stories, but I can't tell you 2017, 20. I just know it was about 12 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a lot of that away from you. And I mean, I'm skinny. You know, I was 230 at one point, and I got down to 137 pounds when I was done with my chemo. They tried 33 different medications for all of my stuff, and and I don't, you know, I'm a lightweight. I don't need a lot. So most of them I didn't take. I took one pill and some injections in my stomach. And those sucked because you didn't have any fat, but you're just it puts you in a different place. And the one person that I had that knew cancer, that lost his son, was my best friend, Michael. And I lost him. He was my everything, my brother, my everything. I lost him the day I came home for my colon cancer surgery. He called me in the morning and said, I'll be there at 2. And then I get a call at noon that he had a massive heart attack and died.
Oh my God.
Oh, man.
So that on top of everything else put me into this spiral. And you think about every thought, everything in your past, every time you get in that chair. Every time you feel the chemo drip, you feel it poison your body slowly.
So now we've had the surgery. We've had 8 treatments. You've lost Mike. You've lost Mike, right?
Yeah,
Michael.
Michael.
You've had this like traumatic experience. How long before you knew you were in remission or you were getting better? Like how long did that take?
I knew I was.
Because we need a win here. We
got
to get a victory.
Oh, dude, yeah, we got a victory. So I knew probably it was like right before my last chemo. They said, we're confident. It's gone. We're just going to do this last chemo, and it's gone. And I felt like it was gone right there. And I got this high. I got this amazing, I got my life back. I literally beat this thing I wasn't supposed to. You know what I mean? And you go through this phase for a few months where you're still kind of poisoned in that. But everything, like my buddy Tony took me down. We went golfing, and nobody was on the golf course because it was COVID. It was dope. It was amazing. But it was just the most blessed feeling. Even though it's alone ringing that bell, it was just being able to do it. Man, it releases, and then that's why you can't give up. If you can.
What are you talking about ringing that bell? You said it twice now. What does that mean? Like when you beat cancer, you get to ring a bell? So when you beat
cancer, you ring the bell. Oh. And they usually record it, but there was nobody in the hospitals.
Wow.
And mine was like, hey, you're done. I'm like, okay, ring the bell with my couple nurses, and then I left because everybody was home with COVID, right? So it was a good experience, though. You know what I mean? Like, I know exactly why I got cancer.
Why?
I know. I was going down the wrong path.
What do you mean?
The way I was going, the life I was living, it felt right. But it just wasn't. And I just needed the space. Any time in my life where I'm off the path too far, I get my ass carjacked. Something bad happens, and that's when I look at things. I don't look at things as bad things happen to me. I look at things as, okay, why did this happen to me? What am I supposed to learn from it? And how fast can I figure that out? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to stay with a lesson for very long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Take it and move on and grow from it.
So here we are. We've gone through this horrible physical experience, and it seems to me like it's not just physical, it's spiritual. It's all the things.
Everything.
Mental. It hits you at every level, relationship-wise. Like every every spoke on the wheel of life is affected. And you've lost friends now, and here we sit at the end. Like, now what? Now you have this euphoria. Like, what? How do you? Are you have to re-identify yourself? Do you have to come up with a new personality?
I feel like you become a different personality. It just changes you. And it took me a couple years to accept it. I was fighting against it. I was on medications, but then they would give me side effects. So I'd be on other medications for the side effects. And I just felt unbalanced. And my whole thing, even when I was sick, balance. I should be there. My name's in it. You know what I mean? You can't spell balance without Lance, right? So, boom, kill it. So yeah, I got that. It was like a Wednesday that came in. It just came in, and I was just like, I got to balance everything. So I mean, even my doctors, I'm telling them, no, I need to do this instead of this, and this instead of this. So we're looking at ketamine therapies. We're working at all of these things and finding a balance in everything, because what's prescribed doesn't mean it's for you. You've got to look at your own body, feel your own body. What makes you feel good? What makes you feel bad? Makes you feel bad? Don't do it. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, it was an experience that was amazing, and it made me a lot more grateful. But it made me a lot more aware, a lot more sensitive. I used to be able to handle a lot of, we'll say, negative female energy. I raised 4 daughters. I don't have a tolerance as it is, but I learned that when you see something going in a negative way, you've got to get away from it. You've got to just, okay, something's going sideways, got to get away. I broke my own heart over this. And still to this day, you know, even though the relationship wasn't where it should have been, and I went through what I did, I still have those times where I'm like, God, if I would have just dealt with it, I could be making this money, this money, this money. But it wasn't worth the behind the scenes.
Right.
And it's the behind the scenes is where people get lost. You know
So
what I mean?
now that you've had this shift, because when I first met you, we were very, you and I were very driven towards getting rich.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a lot about it, actually.
lot.
We talked about the money that was being made in this business that we were sitting in. We talked about all these different things, and we haven't had a conversation like that in a long time. Is quality of life now, is that where we've moved up to, like quality of life is wealth?
Quality of life is wealth, 100%. And I know it because I started over, right? And the quality, that's the quality of life is
Your wealth.
Is your wealth.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people that go on lots of vacations, but are unhappy as hell.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of friends that don't, and they're some of the happiest people I know. And it's that balance, finding yourself, being okay with yourself, with the words your head puts there. How do you control that? I meditate every single day. Every day without fail, I meditate at least 20 minutes. I don't care if I have to go to my car. I take usually between 2 and 3. You can't get a hold of me because I take that middle of the day reset, and I just find balance.
And so what does meditation look like for you? Like, let's talk about that.
Meditation for me, okay, I've been doing it. I learned meditation when I was 18. I've been doing it religiously for at least 20 years.
Oh, wow.
And meditation for me, it's a process. And a lot of people are like, I can't meditate. Well, you've got to realize you think of 60,000 things a day, right? So you've got to give yourself time to clear that, to look into the dark, not the dark like the bad dark, but you think, you just clear your mind. And then I always think when I meditate, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm healing. Okay, now.
So those are your mantras that you're saying
Yes.
again and again and
Yes, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I'm this.
healing.
And it used to be, I want money, I want this one. Now it's like, I'm healthy. It's my first one. Because if I'm healthy, then that gives me the ability to love. If I'm not healthy, that takes that away. And I want that health. So I take these 3 things and I put them in my head until it pushes everything else out, and then it just goes quiet. And I have my meditation music on, and I really work with myself on giving myself space. That's what I've learned, is giving myself space. I was hard as hell on myself the first few years. And it put me in the hospital. Nobody knows this, but I had almost a mild heart attack 3 months ago. Ended up in the hospital. They call it the broken heart disease. And it's something that with the chemo, it went in and inflamed a part of my heart. And if I get too much stress or cortisol that goes in there, it put me on the ground. Like, I called 911 on myself. And I don't call 911. You know what I'm saying? So, it was an experience where I realized I'm out of balance. I was doing too much of a substance. I'll admit it. I was abusing medications, like ketamine, because it was dulling my heart pain. But once I admitted it, and I'm like, okay, now this medicine isn't just for the bone pain. Now I'm using it for heart pain. And that's where the medicines and stuff gets abused, is if we take stuff that's just for our knee that hurts, that's great. But if our knee is triggering our head to make us depressed, then we start doubling and tripling our medications. There's your trigger back. You've got to have a trigger back into your flow, right?
I've recently come to the difference between drugs and medicine.
Medicine, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, medicine makes me connect.
Yes.
Medicine makes me more present, makes me more here, more now. Drugs disconnect.
Just disconnect.
And drugs can be food. It can be alcohol.
Alcohol.
It can be all of the
It can be
exercise.
sex. It can be all kinds of things.
All kinds of addictions. And so it's a weird balance, because I've had people and they're talking to me about something that I would consider medicine, but they're talking about it like a drug.
Like a drug, yeah. And you'll hear me say that, where I believe, honestly, there's a reason for every medicine that we have. There's a reason that God, Allah, whoever you're into, the universe, center, source, there's a reason that everything's here, right? And I really am a naturalist. If it's from the earth, I'm pretty much down with it. But when it comes to your system, and especially when mine got all fucked up and just scrambled after the chemo, I had to figure out what was working, because I'm allergic to hydrocodone. I can't take pain medication.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, so that's why they use ketamine with me, because I have bad reactions to hydrocodone. I take more than 10 milligrams a day, and I itch.
Oh,
and it's just, so I've just dealt with pain. And when you get to the point where you realize that medicine has become a drug, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Maybe that's a good way to say it. When that medicine becomes a drug and you start being able to tune out, and that I needed to. I understand why I did everything I did. But coming back from it, that's where I got a lot more strength too. It's just like, okay, when you see the problem, just fix it. You know, I don't think we give ourselves enough space. Like when something bad happens to us, it's never happened before, it's a growing experience.
Let's talk about that for a quick second, do you mind?
Please.
Let's dig into that, because how do you give yourself the grace? How have you discovered that? Because the young man that I met 15 years ago, hard driving, my way or the highway kind of a personality, which I appreciated. That's we resonated, because that was my personality too. How are you giving yourself the grace to move into this healing or this spiritual presence that you're in now? Because it's not an easy thing to do.
It's a daily, all day long, mentally telling myself it's okay. Telling myself in my meditations, when I see my reflection in the mirror, I tell myself, I love you. You've got this. Doesn't matter if I'm walking up to go to a meeting or whatever. I tell myself over and over again, I love you. You've got this. Let's go forward. I love you. I got this. Let's go forward. It's about loving yourself. But you've got to love yourself for all the parts. For the parts, okay, well, I'm super sensitive. I am. And it takes me a while to calm down. And that's where I give myself the space. My new thing is space and grace. Give yourself space and grace. Because if you're going through something for the first time, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You just stumble through it. But if it ever happens again, you got this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where it came in. Giving myself space and grace. The yoga, the meditation, all these things, working out, doing lifting, doing this, but staying in a balance to where I'm not diverting so much attention to something where it's compulsive, where it starts fucking with my vibe. Because my vibe is very important. My vibe, my friends, my exes will tell you I have this thing called flow. I don't like being out of flow.
Sure.
And I see flow because you see the signs. You see the signs all over the place. I saw one on the way here. I was just holding my promontory like badge from the golf course. And right as I was coming here, and I have the picture in my phone, there's a promontory. Has the same logo. It's a Park City car, and it's right there on 7th East as I'm coming down here. Took a picture of it, and I'm like, that's telling me I'm doing the right thing. So when you see the signs, you're doing the right thing. And not painting red flags green. I was good at that. That's a big thing itself.
So you would create, you would look for problems.
I would see problems and think I could fix them. I would see red flags and I would paint them green.
I got this. I can handle
you feel
this.
it? Yeah. So I go in, and now I see red flags very early. And I just barely started dating again. So I'm open, and then the cancer and all that has made me so aware of everything that's happening around me that it's hard to keep it down. But if I see the red flags, I talk about it. I'll be like, this happened. How often does this happen? Is this part of your cycle? Is this just because of this, and I want to just understand. I just want to understand it.
Well,
Fix it.
Lance, as you are traveling this road of self-discovery, I'm going to call it that, or spiritual discovery, and self-awareness, what are some of the lessons that you've learned along the way that you could pass along to perhaps the younger Lance Bush that maybe would have made his life easier?
Yeah. Calm down.
Calm down.
Give yourself space and grace. I mean, my life from the time I had babies, I felt out of control. I felt out of control because I was always for something else. And now that my youngest is 17 and I'm empty nesting in a way and I'm starting to see it all, I would tell myself, slow down and give yourself space. Don't be mad at yourself if something didn't work out. It's just the way it had to happen. And it's not always about me. There's a 90% of the time I'm like, that happened. And then I can put it together and be like, no, this is part of their path. I'm not going to take that energy in. I'm not going to sit with it. There's no rent. You know what I'm saying? And that was the hard thing for me, Rob, was being able to disconnect from
What's yours and what's mine.
Yeah, what's yours and what's mine. And
Oh yeah, I do know.
So yeah, it's giving yourself the ability to say yes and no when you want without worrying about how other people feel. And it's not in a bad way or a negative way. Everybody has to do it. Don't be a dick while you're doing it. Like, I was never a dick. So just don't go through life being a jerk. Excuse the language. But go through it and tell little Lance to just calm down. Learn as you go.
It's going to be all right.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And if it doesn't, it'll kill you and you won't remember. Hope you get to see Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but it's that. And it's adding the comedy, the laugh at the end. It's about making sure you have balance in it all. And that's what it came down to, was figuring out my system. Because doctors know how to prescribe you pills off of what they're told by whoever's selling that pill, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So if someone's telling me, like, they wanted me on 1,600 milligrams of a medication, I topped out at 400. I couldn't take any more. And then it took me the last 2 months. It was called gabapentin. And it's one of the most evil things. And it just changed my mind. I went 6 months from my chemo to when I finally took this medication. So I have neuropathy in my teeth. You guys ever had a cavity?
Yeah.
Neuropathy, when it kicks in, it hits every one of my nerves in my mouth.
Oh man.
So if I'm not on this kind of medication, then it messes with me. So we alter the medications. I increase the marijuana a little bit, and it kind of counteracts and balances it out. You know what I mean? And I've been, into the cannabis for a long time, but I was on this RSO treatment, and I think that helped. That helped my body. It helped my cells. It helped me beat cancer. It's called RSO oil. It's a trip, but it's the one thing I was on that other people that had what I had weren't, and they're not here anymore. So I don't know if it was the positivity, and I just went into the light though.
Well, it sounds like it was a large part of your mindset, both going into it and how to get through it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I've got a kind of an odd question for you. So it sounds to me you live very presently, okay? Mm-hmm. I want to know if that's something that shifted through all of this. Do you cut ties to how do you view the past is my real question.
I view the past as a growing experience. You know what I mean? And I try not to view it as much as possible. You know what I mean? And I've heard past lives. You hear past lives and all this stuff. I don't want to know any more past. My past, my first half of my life was rocky. The second half is not going to be as rocky. I see it. It's in my visions. I see it all the time. I can feel it. The people around me, the women, the friends, all of it. They're better people. They're a better caliber. It's just getting better. But the past is just, I don't know. It's like when your notebook, when you got your real estate license, all written in and all the notes, but then it goes in the drawer. And you go on and you become a realtor and you do cool shit and you move on. You can't hold on to it. And that was my biggest thing, was letting go of my past, because my past, I get reminded of my past every day when I wake up in the morning. Mm-hmm. I don't feel the same. When storms come in, ridiculous. I'm two different people. When the storms come in, it hits my bones, it hits my body. That was hard because I had to get my mindset to the point where I was okay with not feeling good, because that becomes a trigger once you're sick. You know what I mean? You get cancer, you get a cold, and you get nauseous, and it just...
What is this? What is this?
Remember this? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you build and adapt real quick.
Real quick. You have to. If you don't adapt, I have this thing where you're either a survivor or you're a warrior. And I want to be the warrior. I want to be, when I walked into that aftercare, they thought I was going to be completely different. They didn't see a strong guy coming in, standing up straight, walking in. I had my dog with me in the hospital, and they're like, how are you like this? You didn't have any of the therapy. You didn't have any of the aftercare. I'm like, well, I did. It was just my way. It was gnarly. It was hard. I read books. I listened to podcasts a couple times. But I really went back to the secret, the law of attraction, to the core of what it's about, and putting out and manifesting is huge, because I manifest really well. But if I can manifest really good negative and really good positive. So it's staying in the positive and giving myself, okay, I'm starting to feel like this, so I'm triggered out of my flow. Now I have things that trigger me back. So if I feel certain ways in my body, get back on track. And it's constantly, it's all day long. It's a fight. It doesn't go away. Just one morning you're going to wake up and you're just going to love the hell out of yourself. You won't. You're going to wake up and be like, what the fuck? Why did I do that?
Here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Like, and I had to ask myself that question
I feel
back
like
in July.
that's actually the game of life. Like everything coming at you, your job is just to keep it pointed down the road here.
Yeah, just
Because everything coming at you is trying to take you off into the ditch.
just let it be a tattoo and move on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You just can't hold it. You can't hold it if you're going to grow. You know what I'm saying?
If you want to go,
I
let
like
it
that.
Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah. Let it go.
So, did I
Yeah,
get that
you want to
right?
grow, let it go.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That as soon as it came out of my mouth, it sounded wrong, but you've been rapping longer than I have. So
I got it. I got it. I've talked on these mics a couple times.
that's right. Well, Lance, amazing story, and grateful that you were able to share it with us. As we're stepping into this next chapter of our life, what's something you're really excited about?
Everything.
Come on.
I'm really excited about the new relationship, the way I'm going to be in relationships.
Yeah.
And not misleading myself. Not misleading myself, because I think I can fix. I'm known in our industry to fix things, right? But in life, it's not about fixing. It's about growing, finding people that can grow with you. Some people, it's like you're a bass growing upstream, right? Or a salmon going upstream. Some salmon are going to swim with you. Some are going to be there for a long time, right? Like this. But some are going to be there for a short time and then they fall back, you know? And some hang on and rip themselves apart from you. But you still have to be that salmon going upstream every day in one way, shape, or form. Even if it's some days I got up and I made it through the whole day. If that's a win for that day, then that's a win. Because, I mean, today was one of those days for a lot of people. I went to the bank and everybody was like, it's the whole Eeyore energy. You know what I'm saying? And you just have to work on it every day. And there's not like one simple answer other than loving yourself, giving yourself space, and giving yourself grace to go through things. You know?
Powerful stuff. I love it, Lance. I do love it. I'll tell you, the Lance that sits before me today is a different man than the one that I met 15 years ago. I'm grateful for the friendship, but all the way along the friendship, through all of the changes and all of your hardships and things, the core Lance has stayed the same. The integrity, the belief, the trying my best, always doing my best, even if it's shitty. I'm doing my best. I'm showing up, buddy. Showing up, and it's something that I've really admired about you. I've watched you, and I didn't know that you'd gone through so much since I've known you. Like, I feel like I should be a better friend. I should check in more with you. But I want you to know that I admire you, and I'm proud of the progress that you've made. It's cool to watch someone be such a great example in their own swimming upstream, because that's what it reminds me. I mean, I compare myself to others all the time, and when I speak with you, I'm always brought back to the fact that I'm doing all right. I'm doing my best. I got this. I can do this. And I admire that message that you continually give to me and those all around you. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. That's a great compliment, bro.
Finally, what I wanted to say is, if you'd like to know more about Lance, and he does a lot of great things as far as credit repair and mortgages and different things, we're going to put his contact links in the messages for or the notes of this podcast so that you can contact him. If you want to work with someone who has integrity and drive and incredible industry knowledge, this is your guy. So you want to give him a quick phone call. I'm always happy to refer people to Lance if they want to improve their position and get into a home. But what I want to say in the end is that I'm grateful for your friendship.
Oh, I love you, Rob.
I love you too. I'm grateful for you. You've been one of the good ones, and we've been friends for so long. Like when I was thinking of the number, I'm like, holy cow, that's
It's a long time.
That's a long damn time to
That
know
is a long
somebody.
time. Mm-hmm.
So I'm grateful for that. I wanted to thank you all of our fans, for tuning in and listening to the American Masterminds. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your friends. Please subscribe, and please be sure to listen again. We're grateful for your attendance and your attention. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Boys,
thank you.
thank you, fellas. Appreciate
Thank you, Lance.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, man.
Much love.